What's going on, guys? It's Arrow. I'm bringing you my day 4 update. We're going to talk about what the build did right, what it did wrong, what I changed, and how you can improve yours. Let's get into it. I'm starting day 5 of the subathon today, which is why I'm trying to get this video out quickly. Make sure you stop by. We're having a lot of fun over there. Twitch.tv/AE0__. I'll see you over there. All right, back to it. Okay, so here we have level 94, Arrow Whelmed. I should be a higher level, but I pretty much didn't get any levels on day 3 due to some very, let's say, aggressive juicing that I was doing. We got all 4 of our Void Stones on day 2. Maven was a bit of a problem simply because I'm really bad at the memory game and bad at dodging those beams where if you take any damage from them, you stop recovering. Because we were self-chilling, Forbidden Right does damage to us. So I was helplessly killing my character every time I touched one of those beams. But I did do her on the first try. Uber Elder, I think I had 1 death to just a stupid misplay, but it was a very easy fight otherwise. I've changed things around a bunch. I've tried a bunch of different setups, but things have mostly gone according to plan. But make sure that you stick around so you can see all the things that I did change. The first thing I want to talk about is self-chill. If you want to do self-chill properly and you don't have access to a 4-second trigger, like I have here, the 8-second trigger on the wand, you need Leaf Shade on the tree and Nameless Rings in both slots. I would recommend crafting these with Reforged Chaos, but there's plenty of different ways to do it. None of them are great, but in order to get that 8-second chill, you have to have both of these rings and Lethe Shade on the tree. One of the things that self-chill does is it makes you throw traps faster, and one of the things that I was not prepared for is how fast we would actually end up throwing traps in the end game, especially with things like the Trap Mastery, where sometimes you throw up to 4 extra, and overthrowing traps became a problem. I personally decided that it wasn't worth going for slave drivers. You still can, they're very strong, but I was finding that I was overthrowing my traps. So one of the things that you can do is you can drop Swift Assembly, even though it's very, very strong. If you are getting to that cap of 17 while bossing, then you're wasting damage. So just make sure that on bossing, you do not have too much trap throw speed, and if you do, you need to pull something back. Now for mapping, Swift Assembly is still going to be superior because it's going to be more traps getting out per second and you're not going to be ever standing still while mapping, so you're not going to reach that trap limit. But do keep in mind, pay attention to that number. Another thing you can do is on the tree, there's a mastery that allows you to have more traps down at the same time. That can help a little bit, but whatever you do, make sure that you are not overthrowing your traps on bosses. A big change that I decided to make was to test out the Lightning Coil Desert Brigandine. I was finding that I was dying to physical projectiles and physical melee hits by far the most of anything. So I said, all right, let's go grab a +2 lightning coil. I got this for 15C. Lightning coils are fairly common and they are getting corrupted by everybody, but Trap in Mine is not very coveted. So these are fairly cheap. I was able to 6-link this for a couple divines worth of Beyond currency, and I really like the way this feels. When in combination with a little bit of extra fizzes taken from the helmet, that pretty much solves our physical mitigation. So because we're no longer using Tinkerskin, we don't have that much recovery. In order to solve that, we grabbed a Forbidden Flesh and Flame for Pyromaniac. This does a few things for us. It solves Ignite and Shock, which means we can drop the Shock Mastery here and grab some damage. But Lethe Shade makes it so your Ignites last an eternity. So if you don't get Ignite immunity somewhere, you're going to be ignited for 15 to 20 seconds every time you get hit by one. So the combination of 10% regen from Pyromaniac alongside of some regen on gear, and we have about 1,000 life recovery per second in combat on Consecrated Ground. We get Consecrated Ground from 2 places. We have a Sulfur Flask here. Eventually this should be a Bottled Faith, and then also from a Purifying Flame. If you get -7 on both rings, things like Frostbomb and Purifying Flame won't cost anything to cast. And that's really important because mana is definitely an issue in this build. So let's talk about mana. I am still using this mana flask, which is really unfortunate. I don't need it all the time, but when all of my cast when damage takens go off at the same time, it burns my mana basically to 0. If I could get a little bit more regen, I would be okay, but I'm not quite there. A great solution would be to work in an Enlighten and allow me to run a higher level Clarity, but we just simply aren't there yet in terms of currency. So with using the Lightning Coil where you're losing access to a lot of energy shield, so I decided to just forego the energy shield entirely and lean into life. So we're getting as much life as we can on big evasion pieces to try to get our evasion a lot higher. So we're taking less damage overall by getting hit less alongside of our big mitigation from the Lightning Coil. This feels much better in my opinion, as having energy shield without really good recovery doesn't feel that important. I was able to snag this Watcher's Eye for 1 divine. It is lightning damage while affected by Wrath and 1.5% life recovery while affected by Vitality. This is just a little bit more regen for us and a little bit of damage. Getting regen wherever possible is super important. If you're not going to be able to get the Pyromaniac Jewels and you want to go for something else for Flesh and Flame, you can just get regen on all your suffixes in your main gear. You can get it on rings, belt, gloves, boot, and helmet, even on the shield. It's going to make your suffixes a little tighter for resistance. You can get a lot of life regen on those pieces. You can also run, I'm running a level 1 vitality. You could run it with an arrogance setup. You're going to lose some life, but it'll give you a bunch more regen. I didn't make any changes on the ascendancy. The ascendancy worked out amazing. I absolutely love it. And then the tree, I just simply haven't gotten to cluster jewels yet. And I'm not sure that I'm going to. I'm really happy with the way the build feels right now, and I'm just blasting and making money. I might just start saving up for the next build, but the cluster jewel setup is significantly more damage. So if you are looking to push this build further, definitely look at the original tree and go for those cluster jewels. A huge point that I want to stress, cast when damage taken in a Void Sphere is super strong. Void Sphere is a spell that when you cast it, it will pull enemies towards it. Because you are constantly damaging yourself, you are very regularly putting out a Void Sphere, it's grouping enemies up and not allowing them to get to you. When an enemy is being pulled towards a location, but they're trying to run at you, they won't stop to use a spell or an attack, they'll just keep trying to run at you, which basically stuns them all. This is one of the strongest defensive layers in the game, and as soon as I got this set up, this build felt significantly tankier. You can get quality on this to reduce the cooldown, but it absolutely feels phenomenal to use, and I cannot recommend it enough. Something that's really important to remember that I continue to forget while leveling and playing this build is that you have a lot of cast on damage taken setups, and if you don't have enough available mana, they won't all go off. So one of the things you can do is once you have regen, you can put life tap on things like Assassin's Mark and Void Sphere because they are very costly. Now, it's going to cost you a decent bit of extra life. Assassin's Mark is 240 life and Void Sphere is 225. However, with how much recovery we have at this point, it really isn't a problem. And the other option is just keep more mana available. I actually think what I might do is drop the clarity entirely and just keep running a mana flask. It allows me to have more available mana. I don't need to use my life for stuff. So we'll see. I might test that on stream today. So make sure you stop by and say hello. All right, so I think that's it for me. I got to get over and start streaming. We are on day 5 of the subathon, twitch.tv/AER0__. Stop by and say hello. Drop that Twitch Prime. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. And as always, take care.